And welcome into the latest episode of the Unpaid Interns. Austin Render joined by Tamar Share here on uh, Tuesday, July 28th. This will be a special Tuesday episode due to some plans that we have tomorrow, but we still have two fantastic guests joining us here tonight. A fantastic co-host in Tamar Share sharing her time with us tonight. Tamar, how are you doing?
Austin, I'm doing great. And I first want to start off the show by apologizing because I totally misspoke last Friday. I said that the Cardinals were opening last weekend with the Royals, and I got confused, obviously, in my head because of their exhibition win against the Royals. But obviously, the Cardinals played and crushed the Pirates.
Did
They
you get
won.
called out on it?
No, but
Oh.
as soon as I ended the podcast, I looked at myself and I was like, I totally said Royals, didn't I? And I just got so flustered in the fact that I was so excited that the MLB was back that I totally misspoke and I'm so mad at myself. But good transition because the Royals gained a new partial owner today.
They
Wanted to
did.
get that leeway in.
Well, first off, what kind of fan are you if you're getting that wrong? So that's good. Also, my internet connection's unstable, so that's good to get 1 minute into the podcast. Um, yeah, the new co-owner of the Kansas City Royals is Patrick Mahomes. I mean, what can't that guy do? He won a Super Bowl MVP, signed a very lucrative contract. He's now he has a share of the ownership of the Kansas City Royals. I mean, that guy is he's. I saw somebody tweet he's one of the few people that is having a great 2020 right now. So good for Patrick Mahomes. But let's stay in the MLB in less positive news. The Miami Marlins have had over 15 people, I believe, have tested positive in the past 3 days for coronavirus, and that is not a good thing, obviously, without a bubble. And they finished their series against, was it the Orioles they were playing? Yeah, the Orioles last week. No, it was the Phillies. They were playing the Phillies last weekend. Look at me. I
Yeah.
almost got that one wrong, too. They're playing the Phillies. They finished the series on Sunday, even though they knew people on their team had tested positive. We've gone over this. Connor and I went over it on Monday. But the new news here on Tuesday night, and stuff may change before you get a hold of this on our normal time on Wednesday morning, but the Marlins will not play until at least the end of the week. But some of the quotes tomorrow from guys like Dave Martinez with the Nationals, some of the other managers around the country showing some great concern. And I think Martinez said that his level of concern went from an 8 to a 12. And there's Dave Roberts out in LA has been very vocal about it as well because both of those two managers have pre existing conditions. It's kind of a mess. And we're going to talk to Tom Ackerman about it later today. But tomorrow, some of the things coming out from the managers and from some of the players, it doesn't feel like people feel very safe.
Right. The owner of the Marlins, Derek Jeter, says the team is now moving to a daily testing schedule. But Austin, we talked about this before. That kind of, I feel, should have been done at the very start. And that's what Manfred needs to be on is getting those safety protocols down pat because the MLB can't do a bubble format like the NHL or the NBA, which is proving to work in the NBA right now with scrimmages. But if you want to have a season, it's only the first week and this trend cannot continue. You have to really stick to strict protocols. And I think it's going to come down to really limiting contact and seeing what else they can do to add on and be even more precautious if there can be any way.
I don't know if you saw Trisha Whitaker's tweet yesterday. The Rays hit back-to-back home runs. They celebrated in the dugout with elbow bumps, and then they immediately sanitized all the way down the row. And she said, if this doesn't show you a team that wants to play all 60 games, then I don't know what does. She's completely right. It is up to the players. It is up to the coach and the managers to make sure it's their responsibility to get through 60 games. The MLB can put the protocols out. The MLB can say, do this, do that. And no, the MLB may not have handled this Marlins situation in the best way possible. But it is up to the players to be smart. It is up to the players to take the necessary precautions. And this is not shedding a great light on other sports. The NFL has said they're not going to do a bubble. It'd be really tough to do an NFL bubble. College football, obviously, not going to be able to do a bubble, and that looks less and less likely. The MLB is supposed to kind of be almost not a test run, because the MLB is very important, but it is kind of a test run in the fact that is a bubbleless sports league going to be able to work right now? The NBA and the NHL have no positive cases, but the MLB already has an outbreak and we are in the first week. What will the NFL do? What will college football do? The NBA is already saying that for 2020 and 2021 season, they're thinking about another bubble for the next season. So players really starting to think about that. And that's our transition to the NFL here in the news. Training camps began today. I saw the Colts reported. Shout out to Phillip Rivers, who reported to training camp in a Hickory Pacers shirt. As Zach Kiefer tweeted, that is a great way to win the fans over in Indianapolis if you're already embracing the Hickory in your first year in Indianapolis. But the news has been out of New England. Several New England Patriots, I believe it's 4. The biggest name is Dante Hightower, opting out of the season due to COVID concerns. We're also seeing other players around the league. Marquise Goodwin from the Eagles, I believe, I might be getting that name wrong, but there was an Eagles receiver that opted out. Devin Funchess of the Green Bay Packers just opted out. As training camp starting to begin, a lot of the players have expressed their concern tomorrow. Is this something that's going to be like the NBA, where early on we saw some people opting out and then it kind of died down? Or is this something that the NFL may need to be a little concerned about?
I think now that the MLB has started and we're seeing the fallout, even in the first week, it might be a trend, in my opinion, because football, with so many players on the team and them not wanting to have that bubble because it's kind of impossible, just like it is for baseball, I think that's going to really scare people off and scare players off into not wanting to play. I really do think it's going to be that trend of the year. And what you're saying is, even for the next season, people are talking about kind of having that bubble formation and not going back to complete normalcy. So opt-outs, I think, is going to be a trend for this year, honestly.
I also wonder if it's, like you said, the MLB really struggling right now. Maybe people just making, not spur of the moment, but just, hey, look at what the MLB is doing. I'm nervous. I'm out.
Right.
Where you could wait a little bit, because as we know, this virus is ever changing, and maybe in 3 weeks or so, and I don't know, maybe people are wearing masks like they should be, and in 3 weeks time, things are starting to trend in a better direction. But you're never going to fault somebody for taking their own health, their family's health into consideration and saying, you know what, I've had enough. I've decided this isn't safe for my family. And you have to stand by those who do that. And a huge shout out to Kyrie Irving. I believe this came out yesterday, that he is, I don't remember the exact number, but he is supplying a very large amount of money to the WNBA players that have opted out of the season. And I think that's a fantastic gesture from Kyrie Irving, who himself has opted out of the NBA season. So kudos to Kyrie Irving for doing a really great thing there to help out the WNBA players that will not be getting paid for this bubble season. We are done with the news. So Tamar, I guess we'll bring in our first guest. As Tamar tweeted, these are 2 of Tamar Share's favorite people, I believe, in the world. Our first guest is a former Indiana Hoosier, former classmate of both Tamar and myself. We've worked plenty with her. She is Mary Kate Hamilton. Mary Kate, how are you?
Hi guys, I'm good. How are you? I'm honored to be on Tamar's list of favorites. I need to kind of set up here. I haven't done this in a while. I haven't been on a Zoom in a while, which was a staple of our daily lives back in
Yes.
March, April, and May. So I'm really happy to be here. Thank you guys for having me.
Well, we
It's
are thrilled to
long
have you.
overdue.
I know. Well, I just want to start out by saying that I think that everything that you guys have been doing with this podcast, both of you and Connor and anyone else that's been involved, has just, first of all, it was a genius idea to be able to bring people in, have these conversations, for the good portion, a lot of us were just sitting at home anyway. So I think that you guys have done a really great job. So kudos to you both.
Well, thank you. All the credit goes to Dr. Clavio. He gave me the idea and I ran with it. But
Of
yeah,
course.
it
Credit
is so
always goes to
great.
Dr. Clavio, right?
Honestly,
Right.
anything we do is kudos to him.
Yes, exactly.
Well, Tamar has put it at the top of the rundown. So I guess we'll start it off with, she said that we have the honor of breaking the news of where Mary Kate Hamilton will be spending her time now. You just got a new job.
Yes, I did. I'll be heading down south to Texas. I've been kind of putting off saying it publicly, but yeah, I'll be the weekend sports anchor and reporter at CBS 7, KOSA in Odessa, Texas. So I'm super excited. It's a big move. I've never lived anywhere other than Indiana, but you guys know, I've wanted to do this for as long as I can remember. So it really feels like too good to be true. I almost want to pinch myself, and I'm really just excited to get back to work. Who knows what's going to happen with sports in the fall, or, for however long I'm there, but we can hope for the best, and I'm really excited. Great people down there. So yeah, it'll be nice to get to work.
Gosh, well, of course, you're never going to leave the IU Sports Media family. You
Yes.
kind of helped me get my start, along with so many others, helped us and helped everyone within the program. So what do you credit the sports media program at IU to helping you land this position?
Oh, I mean, I can't even I can't even put into words how much I credit. I mean, they get all of the credit, literally 100% of the credit. I had the best 4 years at IU. I got to work with amazing people like both of you. I got so many incredible opportunities that really just, I don't know that I would have gotten at another school. And not only that, but it was just such a welcoming environment. I've always felt that, we were rooting for each other, which was nice. And whether it was, we were on the call together or somebody stopped by the checkout booth, Austin's very familiar with it as well, and just asked how you were doing, what you've been up to. Galen Clavio, as we said, always there to listen, whether it's sports media related or not. Sometimes you just need, that support system around you. So I think in terms of opportunities, just incredible. Obviously, my whole reel, I would credit to IU, but also just in general, the community, and, making sure that when you're on this path, you don't get, frustrated or want to give up, because I think that I'm so glad that I didn't, obviously. And just so many great lessons that I've learned at IU that I will definitely be taking with me to Texas. So,
Well, it's an incredibly close knit group of people, and it
yes.
stems even beyond. It stems into the alumni base. It stems in the people who have been graduated for 10, 15 years, who are always willing to help. And it's also a talented bunch. And you kind of made Indiana history with the STA All-American honors that you got, top collegiate female sportscaster in the country. First off, congratulations. What did that mean to you, and what do you remember from that day when you found out?
Yeah, thank you. You guys are making me like blush today. It was a crazy experience. I told Tamar a little bit about it just the other day on the phone, but I was not expecting to even have my name like mentioned at all. So I knew kind of at the back of my head that the awards were being announced that day. And so I knew that I was excited to see the list, mainly just to see, which of my friends made the list. I knew that there would be IU kids on that list. And then also just people that I know, from Twitter and things like that I just kind of know from the grapevine. I was excited to see it, but I was actually in Bloomington moving out of my apartment that day. And I was going on a walk around campus with one of my friends who was also in the media school, but not sports and not broadcasting, Kate McNeil, and also from St. Louis. And right before we left, I said, yeah, there's this thing that's being announced today. I'm kind of embarrassed. I think a couple people know that I applied, so it's going to be kind of embarrassing if I don't get it, like if I'm not mentioned, whatever, but I don't think I will be. And so I got back to my apartment, completely empty apartment. And I actually got a Snapchat from Jacob Vinson, another IU Media School alum, of his TV, and I'm on it. And I was super confused. So he kind of was the domino. And then obviously I started checking Twitter and people started reaching out to me. And it was just so much fun. To be recognized, obviously, is a huge honor, especially when there are so many talented people that apply and that are also on that list. It was just really fun. And it was kind of one of those things where people were reaching out and I got to talk to people that I maybe hadn't in a while that, wanted to reach out to me. So it was really exciting. And a ton of great things have come out of it as well. So yeah, I mean, it was just really fun, but it was definitely unexpected. And I wasn't even watching it when it was airing, which is kind of embarrassing. I wish that I had been, but I didn't know. So yeah, it was really fun.
Well,
Whether you know Mary Kate or not, she is anyone listening, she is the most humble human being ever. I think I speak for everyone when I say no one's surprised Mary Kate. Literally no one.
I think everyone's always their own harshest critic, right?
Oh,
and,
absolutely. No one likes watching their own reel.
Right. And listening to your own voice.
Yes.
But, I feel like I carry myself with some confidence, but at the end of the day, I'm my harshest critic. So it was, it was not expected at all. And even afterwards, I watched the reels of some of the other people that were like All-Americans or, on that side of it, and watched their reels, and they were just amazing. So yeah, I mean, I'm really honored that they thought highly enough of me to put me where they put me. And it's been a really fun experience.
Well, what was the Twitter day like when you took over the STIA account? You got some questions. What was that like? And maybe what was one of the weirdest or best questions that you got from someone?
Yeah, that was really fun too. I did an Instagram live for them, and once again, kind of going back to the confidence thing, I told all my friends about it because I didn't want to not have any viewers. So I told all my friends that know nothing about sports, they don't know anything about broadcasting, hey, I'm going live at 7:00, please watch, whatever. And so it was really funny. After the fact, they tweeted out some of the clips that I was just talking in, and underneath you just see all these comments rolling like, woo, go MK, like you go girl, all this stuff. And then literally the next day, I think Rich Hollenberg from ESPN did an Instagram live, and obviously he didn't have any 21-year-old girls like telling him that he looked beautiful. And it was just funny. I thought the dichotomy sort of like, I'm doing it and I don't have a job yet and I just graduated college and I have all these college friends commenting, and then literally such a successful broadcaster at the highest level. But I love that STAA does that, and I still tune into their lives all the time. And it was really fun just to kind of talk about my experience a little bit. But yeah, when it would start to get a little bit slow and I was waiting for questions, my friends and like my friends' moms would ask questions, and they did their best. So it was pretty cute.
That's fabulous. I remember that week well, and just being so proud of you. I think everyone at IU was so proud of Mary Kate Hamilton, MK. And going off of just the experience.
And we can't forget Austin either.
Oh, right. I know. I was going to.
Hello. Very proud of Austin as well.
I'm a peasant on that list compared to Mary
you are
Kate.
Not. No, you're not. Just wait until next year.
I'm looking up. You're quite a few floors up there.
Wait until next year.
Come on, Austin. Give yourself credit. You're the one that did this, started this podcast. You are such a talent.
Well, thank you both.
And Mary Kate, I wanted to talk about your experience, not only at IU, but also you were given the opportunity to intern for Wish TV in Indianapolis, which is where you're from. You and Austin are both from Indiana in some regard. And so I was wondering, how did that feel, being able to cover the Colts and the Indy 500, just two things that you, or sports that you really grew up watching and loving, and then you get to cover it?
I think that everyone before they graduate should intern in a newsroom, because I've had friends that have interned in newsrooms and thought to themselves, this is not actually what I want to be doing. And I think that it's a really good clarity on either end of the spectrum. For me, I walked in my first day and was literally just starstruck, so excited to be there. It's such a cool, fast-paced environment to be in a newsroom. The news reporters are going in and out, there's noise, everyone's busy trying to make their deadlines and things like that. And I just loved that. And so I'm really excited to kind of get back to that as a professional myself, because I love television. And it was nice because it left no doubt in my mind that that's what I really, really wanted to do. But in terms of the opportunities that I had there, they were incredible. I got to cover the Colts. I got to cover some of Pacers, summer training and summer league. I got to cover the Indianapolis 500, which was probably my favorite thing, being from Indianapolis and getting to see it from that perspective, like down on the track or up in the press box, was so cool. And in the weeks leading up to the 500 too, you're squeezed in with everyone you work with. And it's right at the beginning of the internship. And you're squeezed into this tiny, almost closet that has all of the computers, all of the software, and a bunch of TVs. So my job for the first couple of days was I just had to watch the cars go around the track and write down the times and the driver and the car. But it was hard because they would go by super fast. So then you kind of had to learn, like, okay, so Simon Pagino drives a lime green car, but such and such also drives a lime green car. So don't get those two cars confused. But it was a really fun way to get super close right at the beginning of the summer. And really the people are what I think make Wish so great. I loved the people that I worked with. I still keep in touch with them. Connor's working there this summer, Connor Hines, for those of you who don't know. And I think I'm bringing them cookies on Friday. I wanted to bring them on a day that he was there because I was going to do it Monday, but he wasn't working. But they're just great people. They always have your best interest at heart. And they also really let you be kind of independent, and you can do your own stand-up while you're there. And you can make your own packages in your free time when you're not, editing video for the shows. And I loved that too, just getting that hands-on experience. And so much of my reel that I ended up getting my job with were clips from Wish. So it was hands down like the best summer.
I know we all take different paths to not only professionally, but to getting to this point where you want to do this. I mean, when did you realize sports media or news and what you do, what you've done with BTN Student U, what you've done at IU, when did you realize this is the path that you wanted to take?
So I've always known that I wanted to be a journalist, and particularly a broadcast journalist. In 5th grade, I was kind of that girl that talked too much in class. And so they needed somebody every morning to get pulled out of class and do the announcements that were broadcasted on every classroom had a TV. And it was always a 5th grader, because my elementary school just went up to 5th grade. And so my teacher nominated me to do it, probably to get out of her hair for a couple of minutes every morning. And I just loved it. And it was kind of legit. We had a teleprompter and everything. But I've always been very comfortable speaking in front of groups of people. I've always loved writing and reading. And so I did that in elementary school. I did the morning announcements in middle school. I did them in high school. So people from around my area that went to my high school or whatever, they pretty much know that I've wanted to do this for a really long time. So nothing's really changed, except for the fact that when I got to college, I didn't know if I wanted to do news or sports. And I went to an activities fair at the media school, one of my first days, introduced myself to Galen Clavio, and he asked me what I wanted to do. I said I wanted to be on camera, probably doing the news. and he gave me my first opportunity to be a sideline reporter for a field hockey game. And it was a miserable experience. I was so nervous. I fell flat on my face. I cried. And I told my mom that I was never going to do that again. But of course, when spring applications rolled around, I still applied. And I did softball my freshman year, and then in the spring. And then my sophomore year, I was on the men's soccer beat for sideline. And I loved that. And they had such an exciting season that year as well. And that kind of solidified it for me that this is the best feeling in the world, being on the sidelines at a live sporting event. And then throughout kind of like sophomore, junior, and senior year, I got way more comfortable shooting, editing, writing my own packages, voicing my own packages, and things like that, that will be more so what my job will be like now. But I also did do some news. I did a news internship as well in college. And especially now when sports are kind of up in the air, I think that being able to at least tell stations that I did have some news reporting experience, just in case something happened and I had to go and report on news because there weren't sports to cover, I think that being diverse kind of helped me as well. So I would definitely just encourage anybody at IU to just try everything. And then also, you know, when you make mistakes, when you have a game like I did where you just cry afterwards and it was just so bad, to not be so hard on yourself, because you're in college to make mistakes and to learn from those mistakes. And it's easy to get really wrapped up in trying to be perfect, especially because, you know, I think our school is competitive, but, you know, that's the point. You're there to learn. That's what college is all about. It's all about learning. So yeah, don't be too hard on yourself and just try everything.
I have to respond. Number one, most nerve-wracking thing to do is do the announcements in like elementary school and middle school, because your friends just laugh at you no matter what you say. And as someone who had massive voice cracks throughout middle school and early high school, and there would be one on the announcements, I could barely finish the announcements. I was so sad. But that is a very nerve-wracking job. People don't give those kids enough credit.
I actually tweeted the other day, when I was in high school, I made a mistake. I think I mispronounced a word or something silly on the announcements. And my teacher, in front of my entire class, made fun of me. And he was a really nice guy, and he did not mean anything harsh by it. But I literally sat there in the middle of class with all of my peers and cried. I've been talking a lot about crying. I don't cry that much, just so everyone here knows. I think that's like going to be a misconception, but it's hard. And you definitely, you know, high schoolers and middle schoolers are really harsh. They're probably harsher than the viewers that we broadcast for.
Oh yeah,
for BTN,
especially when they're your friends and they're looking for anything they can get.
Mm-hmm.
I was always worried about the Pledge of Allegiance, that I would like say something wrong in it and somebody would laugh at me.
We had a pre-recorded Pledge of Allegiance, so that was good. I was safe on that front.
Fortunately, mine were just over the intercom, so nobody could see me until high school.
There you go.
But
it's now I know you have to do the morning announcements if you want to be successful in broadcast.
That's the only way.
That's the key. Really, you know, if you're in college now and you're majoring in journalism, but you didn't do the school announcements, I'm sorry, you're going to have to figure something else out tomorrow.
I know, it's a goner for me. No, I remember sitting in your room and I was trying to get into this and get into sports reporting, and you told me that exact story of where you started and how nervous you were, and it helped me immensely. Of course, I felt flat on my face the first time I went and did it too.
It's a rite of passage.
I've also fallen flat on my face.
It's totally. I'm sure Austin's probably seen me mess up like a million times. We've done a ton of broadcasts together.
We've all seen each other mess up, but we've also all seen each other tear it up too.
That's why we're students. We are here to learn.
Exactly.
And
Preach.
Better. But as a piece of advice, moving on and giving it back to the students, as a sports student reporter, how did you balance the social life, school life, and having those weekend games and just keeping it all together? Because obviously it's tough, but you did it.
Yeah, it can be hard at times. I think it really comes down to prioritizing what's important, but some days what's important is seeing your friends, or, you know, taking a second to relax. So for me, my friends were super understanding, and they were my biggest cheerleaders ever with the whole broadcasting thing. They didn't really get it, but they were very supportive of me doing it. And so they would sometimes drive me to games, like while they were basically getting ready to go out, drop me off, go out, and then, you know, then I had to find my own way back home. But they were super supportive, and it was always just kind of my niche in my friend group, so it never really got too much in the way. But I think that, like I said, it's really easy to put a lot of pressure on yourself. You know, it's a competitive environment. Everybody wants the best games or the best beats. And everybody wants to set themselves up really well for the future. But you only get 4 years of college. And I'm going to get sad talking about it because I want to go back. I'm really jealous of you guys. But the memories, looking back, so many of my favorite memories are actually from broadcasting. But also I have a lot of great memories with my friends. And I think it's just important to know what balance works for you too. You know, I love to have fun, and I loved to hang out with my friends as much as I possibly could, but I only did that once I had everything I needed done. And I think that that's how I was able to kind of work around it. I always used to joke that it was really nice that the media school lab closed at 10. It was 10 or 11. But basically, I had to get my stuff done before 10 or 11. So then after that, my night was free. And that was kind of nice that I couldn't just stay there all night long working. I would basically be kicked out and forced to go and spend time with my friends in our dorm, or, you know, in the sorority house or whatever it was. So definitely really important. And don't let your work become completely what you're basing your own worth on too. Because when you mess up, if this is the only thing that you have, that's going to be way, way harder on you than being able to mess up and then go home and laugh it off with your friends.
That's the best advice I've heard in a long time. I'm just sitting here nodding along. Yes.
Take notes for senior year.
I've always said it, like, it's why I room with people that aren't in sports media. I have a lot of great friends in the IU sports media program, but if I roomed with them, worked with them, went out with them, like, that's all that I would do, is just be with them 24/7. So it's great to have people that I can come home to and just talk plain sports and not have to talk lingo or job or whatever.
Or trying to one up each other on stats or.
Yeah, exactly. They just all come to me for their betting advice or whatever it is. And they always
I will
money.
say though,
don't come to me.
The sports media social circle, I adore.
Oh,
I love
fantastic.
my friends that I work with too. And especially like if I'm covering a basketball game and, you know, I have some of my friends that are writing either, you know, for the IDS or, you know, whatever paper it may be. And then we can all get together after the game, after we're done working and let loose. I love that too.
I'm so mad that that's going to be like really hard to do for the next few months. Like,
I know.
I personally am not willing to take the risk right now to go to bars and whatnot, but like, I'm just bummed because like turned 21 and then this happened. It's like, man, it's like little 5 going out after the broadcast and celebrating a successful broadcast was something I was really looking forward to. But first world, I mean, minor issues compared to what.
But it'll definitely be an adjustment and a change. So best of luck to you guys as you try to navigate this last year and all of the changes that are going to happen.
Well, Mary Kate, thanks so much.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
Enjoy Texas. I hear Austin, Texas is the best city there, so make sure to go there.
Of course. It makes sense with the name, right?
Yeah, no reason other than that. But congratulations. Thanks for joining us. Best of luck, Mary Kate.
Thank you guys so much. Have a great night.
See ya. We'll bring in Tom Ackerman now. He is now our 2-time guest. We are very happy to have him back again. I think Tamar played a heavy role in that. So thank you, Tamar, for bringing Tom back on. Tom, how are you?
I'm doing well. What's going on, guys? How are we doing?
Are you live streaming the Cardinals with us here?
I am not.
Oh, man.
I don't have, you know what I forgot to bring downstairs, although I don't need it in my house, is my IU mask. So Jeff Stuckey at the College of Arts and Sciences sent me an awesome Indiana mask, but I don't
have an IU one, unfortunately.
That's what I wear. I wear the medical ones.
That one, yeah.
But I do have this. How about this for a nice little surprise for tomorrow? Are you ready?
Love. That's my high school, Austin. Now
I have learned so much about St. Louis doing this podcast that I know what that is. I know what that is now.
That's right.
Proud.
Ever
And
since we had Blake Ahern on.
Yep.
That's
I know
right.
what Clayton is now.
Absolutely.
And I didn't go to Clayton. I didn't go to Clayton, but I did go to a school right down the street, and my dad went to Clayton. So big connection to the Clayton Greyhounds.
Austin just learned that you have to ask the question, where did you go to high school if you're from St. Louis?
I did, yeah.
You do. It's a way of, I don't look, it gets looked at as a way of like putting you in some sort of category. I always look at it from a business standpoint. I don't ask the question, but I do like sometimes being asked because it opens up, hey, so-and-so went to school there, or hey, my uncle went there. It starts a conversation around here, and it's a way to connect. St. Louis is like a big, small town. Everybody is connected in some way. So, it's great. I'll tell you what's starting to happen around here is if you say you went to IU, it really has grown. I mean, we have over 6,000 alums here in St. Louis. That number has actually probably jumped to about 7,000 at this point. And that's really exciting. I think we have a great IU alumni base. I was on a call just a little while ago with the St. Louis Sports Commission with at least 2 or 3 other IU people on the call. So, it's always fun to know that we're doing well around here.
Oh yeah,
I think Tamar knows almost all of them, and I think they're cycling through the Unpaid Interns podcast here slowly but surely.
Yes, indeed.
So
we have a great connection. The Hoosiers stick together, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah, and we just had on Mary Kate Hamilton, who obviously who just announced that she is moving down to Texas with her first sports reporting gig. So we are super excited for her.
Wow, what a cool town and what a great gig. So good for her. I saw the very end of your conversation with her. I'm very excited for her. I remember first visiting with her when she was a student at IU. The IU Media School gives us the opportunity to visit with students every time that our board meets. And she's terrific. So she'll do a really good job.
I think one of the things that's going to be the toughest about coming back to school is not having those face-to-face meetings, those open like career fair type things, or like the get to know you events at the beginning of the year where people kind of put faces to names. There'll be a lot of Zoom calls, I think, early on.
Yeah, that's interesting. And that was part of our meeting today with the Sports Commission as we raise money for scholarships. And one of the reasons why we decided to continue with the same number, raising $30,000 for scholarships with this trivia night that we're doing, is we didn't want to change the number because the need is as much as ever. And these students have been through a lot. They're not able to go to prom. They're not able to have a graduation. They're not able to experience what some of us were able to experience as high school students. So I agree with you, and I think the same for the college experience. I know that Indiana University is working extremely hard to do the best to make the best of it, but this is a very serious thing. Look, this is affecting everything that we do. Mm-hmm. Just going down the street and getting a gallon of milk at the store, you have to think twice about what you're doing. Go get gas, put that in your car, all the way to what I cover every day in professional sports. The world has changed, so we're all adjusting in many ways, and I'm a positive person by nature. I think that we will be stronger from this, and we will look back at 2020, hopefully just 2020, but maybe a little bit of 2021, as a time in our lives where we had to make adjustments. It was very hard, but my hope is that we grow as a society from this.
Completely agree. Yeah. Well, let's talk baseball. We've gotten 4 or 5 days of it now. Putting the incident with the Marlins aside for the moment, not able to have all the fans and all the pregame events with opening day, but did you still get those excitement kind of butterflies when you watched the Cardinals' first pitch on Friday?
Yeah, I was emotional. I think that it was a different kind of feeling. It was more of relief. happiness that we got to this point. So it was a much different feeling. You know, the opening day in St. Louis is all about the pageantry, about the motorcade of Hall of Famers that goes around the track, the Clydesdales, the crowd, the excitement, the waving of the 11 World Championship flags off in right field, and the fans excited about being part of the great tradition. And we didn't have that. What we had was the St. Louis Cardinals, the team. The players were the spotlight, the current team, the players, the field staff, the manager, the front office. They're the ones, the group, the field crew, the grounds crew that gets the field ready, the operations staff that made sure that security was tight, that the stadium was operating under all of the guidelines, that players and staff were tested and the intake procedure was there. There was a major, even just getting out of spring training, getting everybody home safely, getting the minor leaguers home, paying the minor league players, paying their staff, trying to figure out ways through those 4 months to make this thing work and to try to get to July 24th. And they got there. So that was a win before they won the game. They did win the game, the opener, and they won the second game also. But, just to get to that point, I thought was emotional. For our standpoint, from a broadcast crew, and we have a lot of people involved in the game day broadcast, we had 4 months of creating content. So we went deep into our archives. We pulled classic games. We interviewed people. We created different shows. We tried to keep people entertained. And it was a long process. We had some people on our staff that were furloughed. We had some people that took reduction in pay. We had some people that moved to different levels of pay. But slowly and surely, we've been able to bring everything back and get back to a point where we're operating. So I was happy for everybody, and I was kind of emotional about it. And it was kind of a release. I think everybody was, over the 4 months of work, we were a little tired, and you got to that point that, okay, we're handing it back off to a baseball season. Now, you mentioned the Marlins, and the thoughts start coming back again as to how long we'll be able to put this together. But at that very moment, when we did open the season again, it was great. I mean, you saw the team with the crisp white home uniforms and the everything. They do their best to create an atmosphere. They have the walk-up music. They have the PA announcer. They have fireworks when they hit a home run. They have the organ playing during any dead spots. They have crowd noise piped in. So it was everything you hoped it would be. It's not what we're used to, but again, 2020 is not anything like we're used to.
Right. Absolutely. And you speak, of course, to the Marlins and to all the discussions that are being had. Now it's only the first week. Do you have any opinions on how they could have gotten this started, gotten baseball back with heavier safety protocols? Do you think it's just the nature of the beast right now?
Well, thankfully, no other teams are dealing with an outbreak, and it looks like baseball has all of the other 29 teams under control, but the Marlins, it can happen fast. It just shows you that when you have a gathering of people, that it can happen very quickly, and this virus does not care. It will find you, and it will spread very quickly. So they have that contained to a point where they've suspended the Marlins season for the moment, and then they'll get back to work next week and try to figure out how to make up those games. But if the Phillies are okay, the team that played the Marlins, the Yankees had their game postponed twice in Philadelphia because of that. The Orioles aren't playing the Marlins because of that. So there are other teams that are affected by this, but as long as they can move forward and feel like they have everything else. And I can tell you from a Cardinal standpoint, they feel pretty good about where they are. They did have a flight that came into St. Louis. They came into Miami and then went to St. Louis from the Dominican. And some of the players on that flight did contract the virus and tested positive, but they have a very strict policy. You have to have 2 negative tests before you're allowed back into camp. Those players and others had to quarantine for 14 and in some cases 16 days. They got it back together, and they've not had any positive tests since then. The NHL, had their bubble, and they've had no positive tests over the last week. It's hard to say. I mean, could you have had a bubble? That's tough. I mean, Florida, you've got a lot of ballparks down there, but Florida, the virus is rampant. I know that MLS and NBA and WNBA have all been able to this point to do something down in Florida, but Major League Baseball, a little bit different in the number of people and the number of ballparks involved. Arizona, you might have been able to pull it off with all of Major League Baseball, but the problem there is it's so hot. I mean, it's like 100 to 110 every day. They only have one facility that's indoors, and that's where the Diamondbacks play. The other 10 or 11 ballparks are outside. It's tough to go back. The Players Union at the time didn't agree to that, to go to Arizona. It's hard to think back what else could they have done? I don't know. So you just sort of, it's going to take a little luck, but it's going to take mostly, diligence and discipline and policing players policing themselves and their teammates to try to get through this for 3 months and have a baseball season to entertain fans and create some revenue and to give Major League Baseball brand recognition, because if these other sports are going to play or at any rate, I think, you want to be able to entertain your fans and to put your sport on display. I think you're doing something good for the country if you can get through this. But you got to be safety conscious and understand also that players aren't always going to be comfortable doing it. The Washington Nationals made the decision today as players that, they all raised their hand. They're not comfortable playing in Miami. So Miami has suspended play. It's, it's unbelievable tomorrow, but we really are day by day on this thing. I mean, we just don't know what tomorrow will bring. I think you try to get through each day. It's difficult, but it's not what we're used to. You're dealing with a lot of people, and it's an example of what COVID-19 can do.
What did you think as a baseball guy of Toronto being forced to not play in Toronto? Obviously, there's hockey going on in Canada, but not having the Blue Jays. Was that more of like a travel issue, having several teams coming to and from Toronto as opposed to the hockey where it's a bubble system?
Yeah, I mean, it's very strict as to what they're doing here, and they're not having any NHL teams move in and out. They move in and they're there for 2.5 months. There's a process. My friend Jim Thomas is the only St. Louis media member in Edmonton in the Western Conference Hub covering the Blues full time. He writes for the Post-Dispatch. He had to go up there and there was a quarantine period for him of 14 days. He went through a lot of questioning to get through customs once he got up to Canada. So, yeah, I mean, I think that they, it's just where we are today. And unfortunately for the Blue Jays, the restriction was not lifted. It just couldn't happen. So, doing the best that they can to make it through and try to make this thing work. I respect Major League Baseball for trying. I do wish some things maybe were planned differently. And I wish that the players and owners hadn't gone back and forth as bitter as they did about economics, and that so much should have been placed on health and safety. But again, I don't know what could have prevented this. I do think that Toronto being held back is probably the right thing.
It's certainly not going to help Toronto, I would imagine. I saw they're not going to have a home game until August 11th, so we'll see how they handle being on the road for a while. You mentioned hockey.
It's very tough, but I will say this though,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there is a home field advantage. The home field advantage, really, two things. One, that you get to bat in the bottom of the ninth, and two, that you get to sleep in your own bed. That's the advantage. The crowd is not. You're playing in an empty ballpark, and you're playing in a ballpark that you're not as familiar with. But yeah, I feel bad for them. I do. I feel bad for the Marlins. Like, it's not. These guys are trying. It's not their fault. It's not the players' fault. They're trying to make a living as baseball players. They're doing the best they can. like I said, the virus doesn't care. It doesn't know if you're who you are or what you do. You know, if it's going to get you, it's going to get you. So it's difficult right now for everybody involved. And I hope that we can make it through a baseball season. I'll tell you this, whoever wins this thing, if we make it through, and whoever wins this World Series, I remember there was a question about a few weeks ago whether you should put an asterisk by it. I mean, you should put an exclamation point by it. You win a world championship in 2020 after all this, and you're the last team standing. That's a remarkable achievement, and one that you'll remember for the rest of your life.
Completely agree. I do want to pivot here. You've had I think we touched on it the last time you were on, very successful garage happy hour over this quarantine. Since you last came on, you've had some really interesting guests from the St. Louis area and beyond, but has that turned into more than maybe you thought it was going to be originally? And kind of how have you rolled with the punches, so to say, with what that has become?
It really did take off. And then I kind of put the pressure on myself to keep it going at a very high level. I wanted to keep pushing and to get interesting guests and to keep promoting and as if nobody had ever seen it. So I wanted to keep its name out there and really take something that I felt like I had a captive audience, because people did crave sports talk, and it wasn't always sports. There were some other times where we went off topic, but most of the time my guests have been sports related. And I did that for a reason, because I felt like the sports audience needed something. That I was consulted by a few people that I should stray away from sports and touch other topics. And I did, but I did it with sports people because I felt like, again, my audience is feeling a big void right now and needed some sense of normalcy. So while we did touch on, and I don't remember the last guest that I had the last time we talked, but I was somewhere in the middle of it. And now I've reached about, I think, 16 episodes, and we have another one coming up on Thursday that's going to be fun. I'm almost confirmed there on the guests on that one.
I completely feel you there.
My hint is that locally people will be very happy about these two guests that I have on it. The timing is really good. But anyway, I've had people just say yes, like Kurt Warner. Here's one of the great quarterbacks in NFL history. He's a sports hero in St. Louis, said yes. David Freese, who doesn't do a lot of interviews, who hit the most famous home run in Cardinals history. Yeah, I'll do it. Like Carolyn Kindle Betts, the CEO of MLS for the Lou, which is the soccer team here. She's gotten a lot of attention. Tells me, I was wondering when I was going to get invited. I watch the show all the time. I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, I watch it while I'm working out. I put my earbuds in and I watch. You have great guests. And I started realizing, like, people are watching this show. So yeah, it's been fun. It really was just for me and Twitter followers at first, and then it became just me sort of having something to look forward to. And then when I realized that other people were watching it and really enjoying it, that was awesome. So I was asked, when the Cardinal season started, are you going to keep it going? And I was like, yeah, I think I am. I mean, I think this is really fun. I think that people have had a good time with it, and when I feel like it's time to put it on hiatus for a little while, then I will. What I do want to do, and I've been kind of busy with the Cardinals and everything lately, but I want to put one site out there, one page out there that everybody can just click on whatever garage happy hour they want rather than search around Facebook for it. But it's been fun. It's on Facebook Live and on Periscope, on Twitter, on the KMOX Sports account. It really, I laugh because all it is me in front of an iPad, literally just sitting in my garage. It's like, it shows you students who are watching this, the IU Media School, like what you can do. I mean, if you just keep at it and step on the gas pedal, you never know what can come up.
I echo all of your sentiments just with this podcast. It's a little bit of a lower level than the Garage Happy Hour, but the people that have said yes that I just like randomly reached out to, and they're like, oh yeah, I'd love to come on. Or I ran into somebody at Qdoba the other day, like, yeah, we listen to your podcast as a family. We really like it. I'm like, it's that moment when you're like, oh, people do listen to this. And I completely like understand like, wow, okay. Now when it's beyond you, that's when it kind of hits home.
And
Yeah. Sorry, Tamara. And it reminds me of like when I first started at KMOX and I was doing shows. It takes me back to that feeling when I was just starting to do things on KMOX and I was doing Saturday and Sunday nights, and I would have people say that they listened to the show, and I was like, wow, people listen. Like it didn't even like dawn on me that people were listening to me on the radio. Kind of the same feeling, which is fun. Like it really has sort of energized me during a time that has been very difficult. And I hope that during that 45 minutes of time when I do a garage happy hour, that people for a little while forget about everything that's happening in the world and they just listen to two people. Like, I don't want it to be a serious interview, although we've covered serious topics. What I wanted it to be, and if there's a theme there, everybody who's been on the show, I know at some level, there hasn't been anyone that's been like a first time guest or seen me for the first time. And I did that on purpose because I wanted it to be like, hey, David Freese, like I haven't seen you for a few years. And two people just sort of catching up, and then everyone's just kind of like logging onto Facebook and dropping in and listening. And that's how I wanted it to be.
only you can say, hey, David Freese, how you doing?
We don't have that luxury on this show. We've had a lot of people I've never met before, but yeah,
but you will, and you will. And that's the other thing about media and about coverage. And I've told Tamara this, and I think I said this to you also on the last show, or maybe not, but in our business, it really is about longevity and about developing relationships over time and trust, not only with your audience, because the longer that you're on and people start to trust you through the years, you gain credibility with them. So if I say something on the air, they know that I've done my research and that it's accurate and like it's okay. Like I'm just telling you what's going on behind the scenes, and you can trust me on this, and so that feels good. But you also, I think it's really important to gain relationships through the years, so when your subject comes on to interview, they feel comfortable. Mm-hmm. They know that you are going to ask questions that are important, but also that you're not going to burn them, you're not going to do something that's dishonest, you're not going to hang them out to dry, you're not going to be, they're comfortable with the way you talk, and because you talked before on the phone or in person and you've gotten to know them a little bit. I think that's really important to accomplish what you want to do as a journalist and as a member of the media. Well,
I'll leave you on this. Unfortunately, the Twins have put 5 runs up in the second on the Cardinals, so it is 5-0 Minnesota. But
having not watched it, that's disappointing. But so immediately I'd like to know how those runs were scored. I'll have to go back and look. Was it Carlos Martinez not keeping the ball down, or did something happen in the field? We're there.
Walked 1, 6 hits so far through.
Okay, well, he's given up some hits. So it's Minnesota's a really good team. I tried to tell people this morning the Cardinals are playing a team that is I think a legitimate World Series contender. I think the Twins are really good. So, it's fun to feel competition again, though.
Yeah.
And my friend David Kaplan, I don't know if you know him, in Chicago, long time at WGN, ESPN 1000. He is so awesome. And last night he went on this Twitter rant. I mean, he absolutely smoked the Cubs about their bullpen and how Dr. Fauci has better control than Craig Kimbrell, and going nuts. And the Cubs won.
After last night, they needed that, though.
They won 8-7, but they were up 8-1 and gave up 6 runs, and he was so mad. And I laughed, and I felt so good, not because it was something about the Cubs necessarily, but because Cappy was angry about the Cubs, like made me feel normal.
We missed angry and sad Cubs Twitter. as someone who
agree.
follows a lot of Cubs fans, like you missed
I do
that.
too. You know, I follow a lot of Cubs and of course a lot of Cardinals, and I follow the Cubs very closely. We have a lot of Cubs fans around here, and it felt good again to see some of the angst and anger again. It's just part of following sports, you know. So yeah,
we didn't have
I'm
those
with you.
crazy mood changes for like 5 months. So like
Yeah.
Right.
those audible oh no's or enter a different word instead of no. But
Yeah.
that kind of stuff when you're sitting on the couch, you're just like those instant reactions because all we watched for 3 or 4 months was old
Reruns.
games that we knew what was going to happen.
Yeah, it's not bad to feel that again. That's for sure.
Well, Tom, you were gracious with your time there. Really appreciate you hopping on again with us. Great stuff as always. Keep up the good work. Really enjoy the garage happy hour. Thanks for joining us.
I appreciate it very much. Best to you guys. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Tom.
Tom.
Take care.
Thank
That
you.
was Tom Ackerman from St. Louis, the Clayton Greyhounds
Go
Cup
Greyhounds.
owner. Did not go to school there, but he is a Cup owner. That was Tom Ackerman. Tamar, 2 fantastic guests again today with Tom and Mary Kate. Just a really, really fun episode. That'll wrap things up here. Thanks so much for joining us on a special Tuesday episode. Reminder, you can catch all of our episodes wherever you get your podcasts. And you can see our beautiful faces on the IU Sports Media YouTube page. You can get all of our previous 30 episodes there, including a really fun episode that Tamar and I did last Friday with both the IU men's and women's soccer coaches, Todd Yeagley and Erwin Van Bennekom. Catch all of those wherever you get your podcast. For Tamar, Tom Ackerman, Mary Kate Hamilton, I'm Austin Renders saying so long from today's episode of Unpaid Intern.